Supervisor Bredefield,
Here.
Supervisor Chavez, Supervisor Pacheco,
Here.
Supervisor Maxig,
Here.
Chairman Mendez.
I'm here.
And let
We do
the
start
record
at time.
Note that Supervisor Chavez is here. 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, welcome to the April 22nd meeting of the Board of Supervisors. We will begin with the invocation and the flag salute. The invocation will be led by District 5. After the invocation, remain standing for the flag salute.
So here with us today is Kevin Foster. He's the lead pastor at LifeBridge Community Church. Kevin Foster, the founder and lead pastor of LifeBridge Community Church, brings over 2 decades of dedicated service to the Central Valley. With a Master's of Arts degree from Evangel University and a bachelor's degree from Northern Central University in Minneapolis, Kevin is a seasoned leader with a heart for both ministry and community impact. In addition to his role at LifeBridge Community Church, Kevin serves on the board of Link Care Counseling Center, demonstrating his commitment to mental health and holistic well-being. His passion for community development is evident in his establishment of an innovative $23 million affordable housing project in the Central Valley and the establishment of an event center that garnered a nomination for Best of the Central Valley in 2024 and 2025. Kevin is 52 years young, has 3 beautiful daughters, and is married to his beautiful wife. Please stand with me as he leads us in the invocation.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Lord, we just come before you today, and we just want to seek your face for all the problems and all the issues that plague our county, Lord. We know the budget shortfall that's coming up here for this next fiscal year, and I just pray for wisdom. I pray for insight for this Board of Supervisors, Lord, and we just ask that your Spirit would just be with them, guide them, and direct them as they have to make some very, very tough calls and very, very tough decisions. Lord, we're reminded today of the verse of Scripture in Micah chapter 6, verse 8, which says this: He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. And Lord, I just pray these characteristics into our county in the name of Jesus. We just pray that we would love mercy, that we would act justly, and we'd walk humbly with you. And I just thank you so much for these wonderful supervisors in this room. Bless them, Lord. We thank you for our wonderful civil servants that serve our county, Lord, that put their life on the line every single day of the week. Bless them and protect them, Lord. We just thank you so much for it. We pray these things in the precious name of Jesus. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, agendas are in the back table for anyone wanting to follow along. Madam Clerk?
Item number 1, approve agenda.
Okay, who made the motion? Okay, got it. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
We now move to item number 2, approve consent agenda item numbers 20 through 46.
Okay, anyone on the board want to pull anything off of consent?
I only need to pull 41 just because I have a conflict.
Okay. Anyone else? Is there anyone in the public that wants to pull any item off consent? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Got a motion? Got a second? All in favor, so by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Move to item 3.
Item number 3, under the Board of Supervisors, presentation of retirement plaque to John Adams, Department of Public Works and Planning, 22 years of service.
Okay, Mr. White.
Board Member Steve White, Public Works and Planning Director. Today I have John Adams with me today. I've been here about 9 years. I've worked with him a little bit, not as much as others. He joined the department many, many years ago when it was resources and development services, evolved through the process of the planning series, and ended up culminating his career working in code enforcement. I think he actually left out as a senior code enforcement officer, and he did a really good job. He dealt with things that nobody else wanted to deal with. and it did a fairly good job at that. So John, thank you very much. Today is your day.
I just wanted to take a moment and thank the board and the department for the experience of working for Fresno County. I've touched all your districts. Some of you are new, but I've been from the east, west, north, and south throughout the county through my experience. And the county, as you know, is very large and very diverse. So I wanted to thank you for that. I wanted to also thank you for the health care, the service that you provide for employees. Recently, as of last year, the board had chipped in monies to help lower the cost to employees for health insurance. And I just wanted to thank the board for their diligence in helping employees and the cost of health insurance. Now that I'm a retired person and dealing with Medicare, I truly appreciate, I appreciated it before, but I truly appreciate the Cadillac insurance that the county provides its employees. It's you're to be commended for that insurance program. And lastly, I just wanted to thank the board and the county administrators for, as I'm now experiencing the FSERA pension program. It's a lot different. Social Security, they'll raise amounts to you, cost of living, and then they'll take it away with Part B increases. So you get one step forward and two steps back with Social Security. The retirement program isn't that way. They do what they say, and it's a very finely tuned run program, and I was a part of it. I was a trustee for a few years, and you're to be commended for operating that program so well, and for you, the administrator and all the officers in the retirement program. So I just wanted to thank you for the experience and for the pleasure of working for Fresno County and all that you do for the employees. And I just want to remind you, it's the employees that make up Fresno County. You're a service organization. And just to remember that when times get tough. And thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone on the board?
Okay, everybody else wants
Comments?
to speak?
Go ahead.
Just a quick one for John. So I got to serve with John a little bit on the FSERA board, and that was always fun and exciting, looking at numbers constantly. But I know the 3 or 4 years that you were on that board, we got to see the overall funded status of that pension plan increase. So that's what you want. You want that plan to be going north. So appreciate your dedication in Public Works and with FSERA.
Okay, anyone else? I want to thank you, John. I mean, it's basically the same thing. I mean, you did your job, you did it well, and then you put time in on the retirement board, and I want to thank you very much. And he's got a beautiful tie on, very nice tie. And with that, why don't you come up? Is any of your family here, John? Or
No, they weren't able to come.
okay, well, come up.
His day, not mine. Photo up.
We now move to item number 4. Under Board of Supervisors, presentation of retired plaque to Francis Devens, Sheriff's Department, 30 years of service.
Sheriff Zanoni.
Good morning, Chairman Mendez and members of the board. I have retired Lieutenant Frances Devens here with me today. And we are going to talk a little bit about her career at the Fresno County Sheriff's Office. Frances began her career with the Fresno County Sheriff's Office on January 1st of 1994. It's an important date. She worked a variety of assignments throughout her 31-year career, and she took every opportunity to serve in different capacities with many primary and specialty units along the way. The assignments that she held at various points throughout her 31-year career include patrol, Operation Safe Streets, the Companion Officer Program, the Crisis Negotiations Team, Youth Services, MAGIC, which is our gang unit, Field Training Officer Program, referred to as the FTO program, the Dive Team, our Incident Management Team, the Agricultural Crimes Task Force, the Court Services Unit. She was an area commander, a watch commander, and a very important role in our Public Records Unit. As you know, PRAs are quite the thing these days here in the state of California. She served within these units either as a deputy sheriff, a sheriff sergeant, or as a sheriff lieutenant, and in some of these units at multiple ranks. Lieutenant Devens was one of the incident commanders of the Rough Fire, which was one of the most demanding and complex fires and incidents in the history of Fresno County and even the state of California. Many of her assignments were community-oriented, where she worked to consistently improve relationships between the sheriff's office and the communities that we serve. She has spent years in a leadership role with the Scouts of America organization, and when she continues this role today. She finished her long and distinguished career at the Watch Commander's desk as a Sheriff's Watch Commander. She was responsible for overseeing patrol operations for the entire county. She remained a part of the incident management team during this time and was still responsible for handling critical incidents throughout the county until the day she completed her career. She retired on January 20th, 2025, completing a distinguished 31-year career down to the day in law enforcement. Her dedication to the residents of Fresno County is beyond question, and she is greatly missed. Frances, it is your opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you. I want to thank all of my peers. I've learned a lot from all of them, and I think each and every one of them should be congratulated for the long and distinguished careers they have in front of them. I want to thank Sheriff Zanoni, of course. I've worked with him for a long time, and it's been interesting and very prideful to see him promote up through the ranks. It's been amazing. I've got a lot of friends here who have also seen and worked with and promote up through the ranks. And one thing I can leave here knowing is that the Sheriff's Department is in great hands with the people that are here. I want to thank a number of the people in the community that I worked with. I met some people from the very first assignment, Sue and Kurt Williams from Sunnyside. They're here, and they said, "Hey, we remember you." And I go, "Oh my gosh, yes." We talked about that. It's awesome to see the community out here, because that's what this is all about. That's what this job is all about, is serving the community. And we have to remember that as public servants, all of us. Same thing with Robert Phipps. I know Robert from Scouting, and so it's awesome. I got to come here and see all these wonderful people. I couldn't have done it without this job, but most important, I want to thank my family. They've been here with me before, during, and after. You can't do this job without the support of your family. Everybody else is secondary. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it, and I love all of you. That's all.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Well, Frances, I want to thank you very much. You know, that's 31 years, you know, in the Sheriff's Department isn't just a walk in the park. So, you know, and one thing is you've probably seen, just like John, you know, seen everything in the county. I'm sure you've seen everything in the county firsthand.
Yes.
So I want to congratulate you, and why don't you go ahead and come up and take a picture with us and have your family come up.
We now move to item number 5, under Chairman Mendez, proclaim May 11th through 17th, 2025 as National Peace Officers Memorial Week and May 1st, 2025 Peace Officers Memorial Day in the County of Fresno.
Okay, there he is. Thank you, Sergeant.
Chairman Mendez, Vice Chairman Butterfield, Honorable President. Chairman Mendez, Vice Chairman Butterfield, Honorable Fresno County Supervisors, and distinguished members of Fresno County. Good morning. My name is Edward Mayo. I'm a sergeant with the Fresno County Sheriff's Office, and I'm the Vice President of the Fresno County Peace Officers Memorial Board. Here with me today is Fresno County Peace Officer Memorial Board Secretary Treasurer Greg Little, recently retired. Thank you for taking the time to honor those peace officers who lost their lives in the line of duty in Fresno County. The first being Kingsburg Constable Robert James Allison, whose life was taken on March 21st, 1889. The most recent being Selma Police Officer Gonzalo Carrasco, whose life was taken on January 31, 2023. There are now 64 names of Fresno County peace officers killed in the line of duty on our memorial. Thankfully, we're not enrolling anyone else on that wall this year. Annually, on the first Thursday in May, the local law enforcement community stands together to respect, honor, and remember those that have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. Many in this room today have been touched by the loss of a loved one, a cherished friend, a partner, whose name is eternally etched into the granite walls of the memorial. On May 1 at noon in Courthouse Park, law enforcement personnel from all agencies will gather for the 2025 Fresno County Peace Officers Memorial Ceremony. Songs will be sung, speeches will be given, bagpipes and bugles solemnly played. A 21-gun salute symbolizing respect, mourning, and the importance of those being honored will be performed. All of this to pay respect to those we have lost. The ceremony is a solemn event, not one of despair, but one of reverence. We are thankful to have the support of the Fresno County Board of Supervisors this year as we have in the past. Every year, the Fresno County Peace Officers Memorial Board designs a coin and pin to honor those that have made the ultimate sacrifice, that of laying down their life for a brother. This year, our design centers on an image of a white dove taking flight with an olive branch in its beak. The dove is known as a symbol of peace, hope, compassion, and kindness. The white dove specifically embodies the essence of purity and innocence. The olive branch is a symbol of peace and reconciliation. On behalf of the Fresno County Peace Officers Memorial Board, I'd like to formally invite you all to join us on May 1st at noon in Courthouse Park to pay tribute to those who lost their lives in the line of duty. It has been a tradition for several years to present the Board of Supervisors with a coin and pin commemorating the events of the memorial. The Fresno County Peace Officers Memorial Board, with the support of the Fresno Sheriff Sergeants Association, would like to present each board member with a 2025 Fresno County Peace Officers Memorial commemorative coin and pin, tangible tokens to remind us all of the sacrifices far too many have made. Thank you.
Before I call, is there any public comment on this item? Hearing none, what's that?
I have a quick comment, just
Go
a
ahead.
general comment. So on May the 1st, it's also the National Day of Prayer, and at noon, I will be at New Covenant Church. I've always been asked to do the MC for the National Day of Prayer, but know that the work that you do, making sure that officers are remembered and families are honored, it is a high honor, and I applaud the work of the association. So thank you, Sergeant, and also Mr. Little. Thank you for your time here at the Sheriff's Department. Both of you do great work, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for all that you're doing. And thank you for all the law enforcement for the sacrifice that you make each and every day. It's unfortunate that we have to have people who lose their lives, but we're grateful. You make us all safe, you make the community safe, and we will never forget the sacrifice for those who have given the ultimate. So thank you. Thank you for everyone who serves.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you guys for continuing, to be on the board and keep this great tradition alive, because that's we must always remember those who sacrificed all.
Yes, sir.
Want to make a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve. Okay, all in favor, so by saying aye?
Aye.
Okay, with that, it passes. Come on up.
We now move to item number 6. Under Supervisor Maxick, proclaim May 2025 as National Foster Care Month in the County of Fresno.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have a proclamation here today, and I know that we've got representatives here from Department of Social Services, and just want to say how important it is for us to remember the children, not only in Fresno County that are part of our foster care system, but nationally. There are hundreds of thousands of kids, and I've spoken about this before, but when children are raised in homes, those homes become part of their identity. And when foster children are not able to be placed and they're bounced around through the foster system over many years, that, of course, can present challenges because identity is damaged many times in these young men and women. But the work of our social workers here at the County of Fresno, they do a great job. They go above and beyond. And when I look at the numbers here in the county, now at just a little above 1,400 kids in the foster system, that number has nearly halved in the last 3 to 4 years. And so the work that you're doing to keep kids with their families, extended families, is greatly appreciated. It does not go unnoticed. And I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Sonia, so you can introduce some of the people here with you today and just talk a little bit about why we have this proclamation today.
Thank you, Chairman Maxick. Sonia Bouguet, Director of Social Services, and with me today are my Deputy over Child Welfare, Kim Smith, our Division Chief, Elizabeth Guerrero, one of our division chiefs in Child Welfare, and a representative, one of our foster parents and a longtime president, or now former president of our Foster Care Association for our foster parents. And I really appreciate this proclamation and having an opportunity to recognize, because DSS does not do this alone. Foster parents, whether they're kin or county resource homes or foster family agencies, are incredibly important in this journey. And you're right, our numbers are nearly half of what they were. And I'm proud to say today that almost 99% of our kids that are in out-of-home placements are with families. We're still kin-first culture. If we can find a relative and support a relative for the kid to be with them, that makes the most sense. It makes the most sense from a kid perspective because they stay with their family while we're working on reunifying them with their parents. But when we cannot find family members, then we rely on county resource homes, foster family agencies, and very, very few of our kids, just above 1% now, are growing up, are in a congregate system. So part of the reason why we value our foster parents is because once we are removing a kid from home, we actually need them to be in a family setting. They thrive better, they're supported better, their families do better, and that partnership is incredibly important. So I appreciate you recognizing this, appreciate you recognizing the work of our social workers, but also the importance of our foster parents. And with that, I'm gonna hand it over to a team to give you a little bit more about this proclamation.
Thank you. This month we come together to honor and uplift the children and youth in foster care, the dedicated resource families who open their hearts and homes, and social workers, advocates, and community members who work tirelessly to provide support and stability. As the saying goes, it takes a village, and we are that village standing together to support our youth. DSS has approximately 1,400 youth in out-of-home placement, Each child is unique story, often marked by adversity, but each one holds an incredible potential. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that every child in our foster care system is provided with a safe, loving, and nurturing environment where they can thrive. We'd like to highlight around 312 children and youth are placed with relative kins, approximately 778 children and youth placed in Resource Family Homes County and Foster Family Agency. Around 20, as Sonia had stated, are in congregate care. 108 of those children are in supervised independent living programs. 233 approximately are in guardianships, and we have 17 that are in some medical facilities here.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Guerrero, Division Chief at the department. I would also like to extend an invitation with a formal invitation to follow. On May 22nd, we'll have a Let's Talk event at the, at our department, where we will be honoring our resource parents and providing resources on services to our resource families. But today, I also like to honor our resource parent, Elizabeth Thomas, who formerly served the board as a county supervisor appointed through the Foster Care Oversight Committee for District 2 from 2020 to 2022. She was also the former president of the Foster Parent Association and is currently a member, and she is currently one of our Fresno County Intensive Services Foster Care Resource Parent. Thank you for your work for resource parents and children and youth in Fresno County. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Thomas, as she said. I just want to emphasize the joy and the importance of fostering children. It is a ministry, it is a joy, it's a privilege. I have a love for children. To enter into this type of care, you have to have a sensitivity and a love for children. You have to have that patience and that willingness to go the extra mile and to humble yourself sometimes and subject yourself to difficult challenges. But I just want to say that I feel I'm privileged, and it was an honor, and it is an honor to serve our children in Fresno County. Thank you.
She's one of our awesome foster parents, so represents the group well. Thank you for recognizing this.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and thank you all for the work that you do. I know that some of our colleagues up here, I'm sure, want to say a few words. So before I make a motion, Luis, your light is on.
Yeah, just wanted to thank our folks. I've had a chance to sit on the Foster Youth Oversight Committee, and they do great work, but you guys do a lot of amazing work with our kids. I've had a chance to see firsthand the first 4 months on the board, but as some of you know, my family have been foster parents for a number of years. So we've welcomed children into our home, and it is a very rewarding experience. I've now gotten reintroduced after giving them up to chicken nuggets in our home, but it is one of those experiences that I think are really needed in our community. You guys provide a lot of great support services, so I want to take this opportunity to ask any folks that are listening, if they're interested in becoming foster parents, please do so, and contact our foster care department. They will take care of you and help you navigate through the process. But again, just thank you guys for the work that you do, and I look forward to working with you these next couple of years.
Is there any public comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board.
With that, I'll make a motion for approval of this proclamation.
I got a second. All in favor, is going to say an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, go ahead and come up.
You got to take a picture with us.
Madam Clerk, do you want to hear 41?
Correct. Item 41, which was pulled by Supervisor Maxig due to wishing to recuse due to the Levine Act. Under Public Works and Planning, 41, adopt plans and specifications for contract 24-S-09, Department of Behavioral Health Olive Avenue Campus remodel and award to the lowest bidder, BMY Construction Group.
Okay. Any questions from the board? I think we're good. Is there any public comment on this item? Now I'll take your motion. Okay, thank you. Second. All in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. Thank you, Steve.
That concludes all consent items that were pulled from this morning. We return to your regular agenda. Item number 7, under the Administrative Office, receive presentation from the Fresno Council of Governments regarding Measure C and provide direction to staff if necessary.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, Paul Nerland, your CAO. This morning, we have with us Kendall Flint, who is the Regional Director of Community Engagement and Strategic Planning with DKS and Associates. We also have Terry Ogle, Executive Director of the Fresno County Transportation Authority, and Robert Phipps, Executive Director of Fresno COG. And what we'll be doing this morning is talking about the upcoming process for the Measure C update. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Flint.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Supervisors. Thank you so much for allowing me to make this presentation this morning. I'd also like to thank Mr. Nerland and his staff for meeting with me and my team. What we're really trying to do is make sure that we have a creation of a Measure T expenditure plan that will be embraced by all our local jurisdictions, by the public, and hopefully will be successful when we come to the 2026 election season. So a couple of things just to let you know. We've been meeting with all of the staff at all of the agencies throughout the county, and the reason for that is we really wanted to make sure that people had an opportunity to tell us what C had done for them in the past. As you know, this measure has brought $10 billion into the Fresno region, and that is not a small amount of money. $2 billion of that came from the direct revenues from the sales tax, but $8 billion came from matching funds that were used by local agencies to leverage that money and get additional funding from the state and the federal government. Now, over the last several months, we've been not only meeting with staff and meeting with the mayors and Board of Supervisor members, as well as meeting with folks from local agencies that have an interest in this effort. That includes some of our community-based organizations, as well as some of the other folks that have been out there that have been active in this effort over the last several years. I think the most important thing that we are doing is we're trying to set up a system that is going to be public-facing, that allows everyone to easily get information about what Measure C has done in their own communities, and also what the potential for Measure C is moving forward. So as I think some of you know, we're doing a bottom-up approach. So this graphic just really illustrates, we have the Measure C Renewal Committee. These are members of the public that are representing each of the cities as well as the county. And then there's half a dozen or more other special interest groups that are also represented. At the same time, in a separate group, we're convening a technical committee. And this is representatives from all of the transit agencies as well as all the municipal agencies themselves. And the idea there is to have them work concurrently so that we have, if you will, guardrails for the steering committee that says, okay, these things are possible, sustainable, and we can implement these at the city and county level. And then those recommendations would then move up again through all of our various committees as well as the Fresno County Council of Governments Board and the FCTA Board before ultimately coming back to all the various councils. And then we hope to have a measure that could be supported at the end. Now, what's interesting about this is that we have an opportunity to allow the public to weigh in on a website which has been created called MeasureC2026.com. It allows anyone to go in and make suggestions about how funds might be distributed in a new measure. Now, the steering committee is limited to very specific areas, which is basically the length of a Measure C renewal, 20, 30 years, whatever they are going to recommend. And keeping in mind, these are recommendations that still have to come through the Board Board of Supervisors and the other agencies. They are revenue allocation by category, limited to transportation only. So as most of you know, Measure C is exclusively for transportation investments in the county. So it doesn't go for parks, police, fire, anything else. It's just transportation. It's one of the reasons that these measures have been successful in California is Sacramento cannot take that money or use that money for any other purpose other than which the voters have said they want it spent. They'll also be talking about revenue allocation by agency. What is the formula? And again, that's one of those areas that we'll be working really closely with the Technical Advisory Committee and obviously with the various representatives from the elected bodies. And then also oversight and reporting requirements. It's interesting, in the current measure, there really isn't any teeth in it. So if, for example, if an agency does not have their audits done on time, they're still receiving money. And so one of the things we've heard from talking to the public, they really want to see stronger oversight so the public knows specifically where their money was spent, how it was used, and that becomes much easier for them to get access to that information moving forward. One of the other things we've learned, good, bad, or indifferent. Most folks in the county, we've been to all 15 agencies as well as various other communities. Most folks are most interested, not surprisingly, in their local streets and roads. What we hear over and over again, this is borne out through polling and other just meetings we've had, they really want to know what's going to happen with their local streets and roads. There's concern about the decline of some of the pavement condition in the county, and they'd like to know what's going to happen with that. The other thing that we've noticed is that there's also a difference in the political climate than when there was in 2006. And so one of the things we want to be careful of is to make sure that when we're suggesting, or the steering committee is suggesting these categories for the expenditure plan, that they're accessible to the public. So the public understands local streets and roads, regional projects, transit, bike ped. They may not understand phrases like farm to market or environmental review or environmental compliance. And it's not that we don't want to promote those values, it's we're trying to make this simple so people can clearly understand how and when the funds will be used. We also noted that some of the smaller municipalities were having challenges in terms of implementation because not everyone was getting a large enough slice, for example, on ADA compliance, which is already a federal requirement for Americans with Disabilities Act. So you have $2,000 or $3,000 sitting in an account that can't really be used. So when speaking with your staff and speaking with others, there seems to be broad consensus that this would be a good thing to do, to get less categories, make it easier for the agencies to adapt those spending patterns to best represent what their communities want. Beginning this month or next month, I can't believe it's May already, we're starting a series of pop-up events and community workshops. These will be carried out throughout the summer. A steering committee will be meeting between April and November. There's also going to be additional focus groups that are being conducted actually this week involving folks from all over the county representing different types of interests. And all of this information is going to be provided not only to the Board of Supervisors, but to all the various municipal agencies as well as the public. We really do encourage folks to take a look at MeasureC2026.com to get information about events and opportunities that are happening in your communities. This really does require the public to weigh in. There is no measure on the table right now. There is none. The current measure will expire on April 1st of 2027. And if a new measure cannot be constructed, that will be the end of Measure C funds until something else can happen. This would be devastating for our region, not only for the county, but for a lot of our smaller municipal agencies where they're relying almost entirely on this measure for their local street and road maintenance programs. So we're going to be talking with folks about what is and is not in the measure, what the impacts will be in these local communities, and we hope that folks will take the time to share their views on this matter. And we hope that we have a successful opportunity to put this on the ballot in November. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions that you might have. And again, I appreciate your time.
Okay. Somebody want to ask questions?
Well, two of our board members up here, Gary and Buddy, serve on the Transportation Authority. I'd be curious to see what some of your insights are, since you're our leaders.
Okay.
Did you want to?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, we had a very interesting board meeting just recently. And yes, Chairman Mendez also chairs that. It is it's imperative to me, as I've expressed before, that streets and roads are the priority in Measure C funding. People want their streets and they want their roads fixed, period, beginning and end. I don't hear people when I walked to 21,000 doors tell me about bicycles or buses. They said, when are you going to fix my streets? And if this isn't emphasized in this Measure C, I'm not going to support it. And I want Measure C to pass this time. I would also encourage you not to focus on the environmental justice advocates who are not interested in really getting anything passed but have their own political agenda. This failed largely with conservative voters in North Fresno and in Clovis. And I would suggest that you pay close attention to why it is that they voted no, so that they will vote yes. And I think part of it has to do with streets and roads and all of that. So I'm privileged to serve on that transportation, the Measure C Transportation Authority. It's important. It's important that it pass. We need it. But if we do the same formula last time, which is pandering to people who really don't care about getting this passed, it will fail again. If we don't focus on what people really want, it will fail again. And I don't want to see it fail. So roads and streets, roads and streets, roads and streets. The city of Fresno itself, I know, has $1 billion in deferred maintenance on roads and streets. And there are many cities throughout the county that need their roads and streets fixed. And so that's really important. That's what I would tell you.
Yeah, I think the county is in excess of $500 million. I mean, in deferred maintenance. And it's probably closer to $1 billion. And we have some major county roads that are in pretty bad shape. You know, and there's only so much money that we get. I mean, it's pretty tough to plug the gap when, even with the Measure C money we have.
Enough.
Now, not having it would be even worse. Can you tell everybody some of the things you've done for other agencies in the state and in the valley?
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for asking. I think I'm extremely mindful of Supervisor Bradfield's comment about local streets and roads. We know that is the key thing for not just here in Fresno County, but that was part of the success for Stanislaus, for Merced, for Monterey, for Madera, which recently passed. I was responsible for developing all 4 of those measures and worked very closely with those communities. And in several instances, there were situations like here where they had not passed in previous efforts, and then we were able to get them passed. And one thing I did learn in that is, you know, you need to do your best to be as transparent as possible and make sure people understand what you are asking and what you are doing. So as an example, in Madera, they recently passed their measure with 80% of the money going to local streets and roads, 80%. And at the beginning, I will say that there were some of the groups that you mentioned that were diametrically opposed to that. However, it became crystal clear that some of the very communities that they were trying to advocate for were the specific beneficiaries of that investment. So I think the trick is, at least in my experience, and again, the one I've lost was in San Luis Obispo, and that was in the 2016. We lost by 400 votes on a first-time effort. It was heartbreaking. One of the supervisors told me afterwards, if he had known it had been so close, he would have been supportive. But anyway, we've got another shot coming up. The trick here is to make sure that you are documenting the will of the people, that you are documenting that with our focus groups, with polling, with what we get online, with these multitude of community workshops. There'll be more than 40 of them this summer. And we're asking the same questions consistently in multiple languages in different places. And I anticipate that what we're going to hear based on what we've seen is, yes, that the big push is for local streets and roads. Now, we also have to recognize that our transit community, those that use it, 80% of those riders are transit dependent. And they are people that need to get around. And there are folks that work in the agriculture industry that need to get around. So I don't think it's an either or situation, it's an and. And it should be enough to be able to fulfill the needs of everybody out there and then still be able to deliver what I believe needs to be, you know, a heavily skewed investment towards local streets and roads. You mentioned the pavement condition and the deferred maintenance. For folks that don't know what that means, it's kind of like dentistry. It's like if you put off taking care of your teeth, you could have gotten away with a cavity at one point, but if you blow it, now you're talking root canal and other stuff that costs 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times as much. And that's the same situation with local roads. And so currently in this county, even in the 2019, there were billions of dollars in deferred maintenance. We expect with the new study that's being completed by FCOG at this point, we're going to see that number rise even more. And just for perspective, looking at a city like Kernan, They have reduced their general fund reserves from 13 million to 10. They lose this money, then that means in their local road safety programs, right, they'll lose between $2 and $3 million. That money has to come from someplace else if the roads are going to be maintained. So it's either coming out of another general fund category, which could be police, fire, parks, and they're not unique. You're all in the same boat. And gas tax, SB1, I know we're all in pain when we go to the pump and pay that. But the reality is that Sacramento just does not give that much money back to the Central Valley. Our communities are overlooked in favor of those in the Bay Area and Southern California. And as electric vehicles take hold, that number is going to go down even more. It already is. So the double hit of potentially less money from SB1 and a loss on Measure C would be crippling to the roadway infrastructure in this county.
Okay. Go ahead, Luis.
Thank you, Chair. Well, thank you for the presentation. As you're trying to go about trying to strike this balance of trying to carve out a space for everybody to move into, I think it is going to be key to reach out to all those stakeholders. There's a lot of dynamics that, as you know, are kind of under the current. Various different groups have very different priorities. I'll say it that way. But I think I agree with Chairman Mendez. I think the road conditions that we have right now, the more we wait, the more expensive it's going to get, right? Supervisor Magzig and I worked together when I was on the council on that intersection that was very dangerous, right? Stop sign solved the problem. The reason that we're having so many pedestrian deaths and incidents is because our population has grown so much that our infrastructure hasn't kept up with it. In the city of Fresno alone, the additional 40,000+ people that now live there, about half of those are concentrated in Southeast Fresno. So as you're going about kind of outlining projects and priorities, I would encourage you to reach out to the residents that live in those communities. They have a great pulse on that. Not saying not to reach out to organizations, but sometimes organizations say they represent the community and they represent themselves. And that's okay, because that's their job. I understand that. But I think for me, I think the resident grassroots outreach is going to be key, so that it gives you a good approach, so that to Supervisor Bradfield's point, we do end up with a formula that everybody has a little bit of skin in the game, and we can get, an 80% approval rate. That would be great to see that. And if we don't, we're going to end up with a bill that's much larger than we have now. I think Steve White will tell you how much that cost is here at the county. I know how much it is over at the city. But it'll be crucial to make sure we get this right, because if we don't have that, I hate to paint gloom and doom situations, but we've got multiple layers that are being described that way. And I think our roads, also our pedestrian safety, safe routes to school, our kids trying to get to schools, to shopping centers, to parks, I think for me will be key in order to make sure we support something that's balanced, but that is, at the end of the day, approvable and more palatable to the voters. Because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones to decide on this. So thank you for your presentation.
Yes. Supervisor Magzig.
As someone who rides his bike in rural Fresno County, just from my standpoint, I'm most interested in good pavement, not necessarily a dedicated bike lane, because when you have good pavement, it allows for cyclists to ride single file and not have to worry about chunks of asphalt, holes, and other things which can cause blowouts and accidents. So in the rural areas, that's very important. And I know that looking at Fresno County, there's no other county in the state that has more county road miles to maintain than Fresno County. And no other district has more road miles than Buddy Mendez. And Brian Pacheco has a significant number of road miles. And then so do I. I represent half geographically, basically half of the county. And I think I've got over 400 bridges in my district alone. And so just the money that's needed to maintain all that infrastructure is significant. So I would echo what Supervisor Bredefeld has said. Streets and roads, our infrastructure has to be maintained, because having to rebuild it is so much more expensive. I think there was a term that was coined years ago, $1 spent to maintain roads saves $7 to rebuild it if you wait to have to rebuild it. Those numbers may have changed, because that's what I remember from over 20 years ago. But I do know that things are not getting cheaper, and it's important for us to make sure that we maintain what we have.
And everybody needs to remember that the measure we're on right now failed once, and didn't pass until the second time. Any other comments?
I would just echo the comments of my colleagues, very well presented to the board. It seems like we're a lot more organized this time, even though you don't have the proposal. I think you got the gist of what most people want, and as long as you focus on the roads, give all the rural communities something that they strive for, then I think you'll be more successful. But I think Supervisor Bredefeld hit it. At least 80% should be going to our roads, and then maybe you'll have the vote that follows that.
Bless you.
Do my colleagues want her to come back sometime this summer and just report how she's doing?
I
So-
would very much like to do that. I think one of the
Okay.
challenges, that happened in the last election, again, looking forward, not looking backwards, but I don't think that all of the various city councils, this board, and others were as kept up to date about the process as it
Right.
was going through. So I would rather identify, the bump in the road, whatever it is that, are those things that are really going to be problematic as early as possible so that we don't have, bombs going off at the end where there's things that are happening hastily. We have ample time to put this together. I'm available. I'm going to be meeting with Chairman Mendez and a smaller group quarterly, but I'm absolutely happy to come back in the summer and again in the fall for sure to run
Yeah.
the proposal by. So I'll work with Paul's office and get a good calendar date for that.
Okay, thank you, because we don't want it to, what I referred to, the last process turned into gang warfare more than actually taking public comment.
I would prefer, I've said this to everyone, it's important in these type of processes. I've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah.
And while there are some definitely deep-seated mistrust and deep-seated emotions between sometimes agencies, sometimes others, all kinds of things out there. For this to be successful, we really have to be focused, all of us, on civility, process, and just the facts. Let's stick to what we know factually. And the way we do that, and if we could do that, I really do believe that this has a chance of being incredibly successful for Fresno County. We need to work together collaboratively, and that's what I'm doing here. That's my goal.
Okay, thank you. So we'll be looking forward to having you come back.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
We now move to item number 8, under Administrative Office. Authorize the assignment of operational management for the Code Enforcement Program to the County Administrative Office from the Department of Public Works and Planning, and approve amendment to the salary resolution deleting 1 Office Assistant 1-2, adding 1 Code Enforcement Division Manager, 1 Staff Analyst 1-2-3, and 5 Code Enforcement Officers 1-2 positions in Org 436000200.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Good morning. I'm Matt Constantine, again, with the County Administrative Office. I'm joined this morning by Ellie Harrison, the Code Enforcement Program Manager, and of course, Ed Hill. We, if you will recall, were in front of your board in March and provided you with an overview of some of the improvements that we have made to the Code Enforcement Program. And then briefly, if we could... we made some changes, as you'll recall. We've temporarily placed the program under the leadership of the County Administrative Office and relocated the staff to the ISD building. We have created a new code enforcement job description, first time ever in Fresno County. We hired 5 new code enforcement officers and assigned them out into districts. We've established a new case management system where we focus on reducing the outstanding unresolved cases and focused on an immediate response to complaints as they come in. And finally, we have emphasized the need to clean up, to remediate some of these properties where owners have not been willing to, and the county has taken over and cleaned up some of these health and safety issues that we've seen on some properties. Your board over the last 2 years has provided very clear direction on your expectations and you have specifically requested improved responsiveness and customer service and greater follow-through and tracking to ensure that these violations are remediated in a timely manner. In order to ensure we meet these expectations, in March, we presented your board with 4 recommendations, and your board asked that we return in April for a final review. Recommendation number 1 was to formally assign the code enforcement program to the County Administrative Office. Currently, it's within Public Works and Planning. This change would allow the program to have ongoing oversight and to ensure the program is successful and given the priority that your board has required. Recommendation number 2 was to add 5 additional code enforcement officers. The current allocation of 5, we currently have 5 positions. This would add 5 additional. The current allocation that we have is just not adequate to keep pace with the cases that come in. Recommendation number 3 was to add a division manager and a staff analyst or administrative analyst position. The division manager position will reside within the County Administrative Office and provide greater oversight and leadership. And we also are asking to change a vacant office assistant position we have into this analyst position to help with our enforcement cases and work closely with County Council. And finally, recommendation number 4 was a request to allow code enforcement to move to a permanent location outside of ISD. However, we are requesting some additional time to explore options and to postpone some additional costs that will be needed. Once we identify a location, we will be back in front of your board asking for the necessary appropriations to equip this new site. That concludes our presentation. Ms. Harrison and Mr. Hill and I are here to address any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah. Would it not be beneficial for you to have a counsel lawyer assigned to you so you can, have more resources, focus on going after these folks? Again, I'll point out at the city of Fresno, they have lawyers working code enforcement, multiple lawyers. I imagine they need them there. There's probably more cases than county, maybe, I'm not sure. But wouldn't that be beneficial for you? And that's something that this board can take a look at if that's what you need, but I would suspect you would need that.
Yes, sir. We in fact do. Kyle Roberson, who seems to think he works for county council, actually works for code. He wears our colors, but he is dedicated to us, and we meet weekly with him. He is part of our team. He is dedicated to our success, and that has worked well. That affiliation is different in Fresno. In other counties, that dedication of resources from county council doesn't exist. So we're grateful for the time that we have with him, and it seems to work well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say, Supervisor, we for a long time, when the board has brought this up, wanted to add attorneys, and really what needed to be done are the steps that are taken underneath here. As code enforcement ramps up, we already apply other resources besides Kyle, out of our office to do that. But as code enforcement ramps up, that's going to take more time out of our, out of our office. It's in our litigation group so that we always have somebody that's available to handle whatever needs to be done there. It has taken time to get these steps done. Kyle has spent a lot of his time so far doing things that should be done at the staff level. And so we're in a process where it'll take us probably 6 months to tell, once code enforcement is up, really how many attorneys we need to staff that.
Okay.
Plus, in the city, remember, the deputy city attorneys are prosecuting attorneys. They prosecute code enforcement violations as crimes and infractions. We don't do that. If it's a crime, it gets referred to the DA. We handle just the administrative part of it, and so that's largely a staff function.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot different. I mean, the city's deal is very mature. You know, they've done it for,
Yeah.
I think, 30 years.
Yeah. Well, it was a problem until we put it under the city attorney's office. When it was under the mayor's before, we got nothing done. It was a problem.
Yeah.
Once we turned it to the lawyer, and you're right, I mean, they're able to prosecute, which makes a whole difference, and they take it very seriously because that is the mandate from the council, just as this board has moved it to the CAO because it's become a priority now. And so I just, wonder as this ramps up, if they'll need more legal support, but that's something that should be expressed.
The answer to that is yes.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Nathan.
Just a general comment. So where we were 2 years ago, where we are now, night and day difference. I like how there definitely is more structure. There's someone that our office can call directly when we need help with different issues. And so appreciate that. And my thought would be, depending on how we move forward today with these actions, every 6 months or maybe even 12 months, we can reevaluate how we are doing and see if additional adjustments need to be made. A challenge in all of this, well, this is one of our top priorities as a board, code enforcement, just getting this kind of under control. The county of Fresno is bleeding, so to speak, financially, and so we have fiscal challenges as well. So, but this is a priority. I appreciate what you've done, and I know that my staff also appreciates someone on the other end of that phone when we call with issues in our district. So, thank you for that.
Thank you, Chair. I did meet with staff yesterday, and we kind of went through what this model will look like, but just for the benefit of the public, Ed, I know when we spoke about what this model would look like, so essentially we would have, an infraction or a fine or a fee that is sent to an individual property owner that has not complied. But our first approach will be to get compliance, whatever it is, right? Clean up, do whatnot. What would be the mechanism for this individual appealing that decision? Do we have a hearing officer, and what will be the caseload, I guess, of that hearing officer and the process for that?
Supervisor Chavez, I will take a shot at answering. There are embedded within the ordinance appeal processes at every stage of the administrative enforcement. So we have some that is handled internal to the department. For example, if an administrative citation of $100 was issued, you can appeal that to the department. There's a process that's prescribed in the ordinance. On a sort of a larger scope, there are hearings that occur with a contracted hearing officer that we have. Those processes are prescribed. In fact, Thursday, I think we have 3 of those hearings. County Council helps, but we have a defined appeal process that they are given the rights to. So those are well established, and they work fairly well and fairly often. Sometimes they're not even, we just even set them and they're not even attended because we just want to have an abundance of caution that we've given every right to appeal. But those processes exist and seem to work fairly well.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure we got on the record. I think there's consensus. You want to go after bad players, people that are just stubborn, that disregard, they keep their property the way they want to keep their property, or whatever other infraction is. But I also want us to have the space of, for example, if we have a senior citizen that doesn't have the ability to, cut their lawn or their property, work with them to get compliance. I think for me, if they're working towards compliance, that's a good thing. But reserve the hammer, so to speak, for people that really need it. I just wanted to make sure that those mechanisms are built into place. And I don't think for 1 second, having been at the city, I think I shot off a text earlier of how many code enforcement officers. I think you have like 120 over there. We're trying to build up something but more than anything, I think it'll be a deterrent. I think if people know that there's going to be eyes and ears and that'll motivate people hopefully to just upkeep their property and not cause public health hazards for their neighbors on that. Okay.
Sir.
Sorry, just a quick comment. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to Matt, to Elisanya, and Ed. Having heard your board's focus on this, the results that I've seen, you're going to be the judge of whether we're successful or not, and that may change over the next 6 months. But as we continue to add resources, I see a vast difference, and it's results-driven at any time to see where a complaint is in the process, the data behind it. I was in a meeting over at ISD, or GSD now the other day, and had the chance to interact with some of our new code enforcement officers. And in doing that, I also saw a very positive work environment. They're motivated, and you know what? They're motivated because of your support. So I just want to thank you for that. They know your board is supportive of them. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Do you feel like the ordinance has enough teeth in it for you to be effective? Any changes that you feel need to happen?
Yes, sir. I think the general outline of the ordinance is effective. We've been working with county council on some proposed changes we'd like to bring back now that we are in a space that we have a team and we have the infrastructure set up. There's some refinements that we'd like to make, but in general, yes.
Okay. And then I would just suggest, since this is a priority, rather than waiting 6 months or a year, that we kind of get updates maybe quarterly at this point to see what changes need to take place, what modifications, what we need to add. Would you be amenable to having them come back in 3 months and just kind of meeting on a quarterly basis until we see that it is moving forward, and also we can get an update on the backlog of cases, how that's moving along? If that.
What we need to, you got anything?
Well, I would add, I would support that coming back in a timely manner in 3 to 6 months. I will say that you are out and about, because there was a lot of infractions that will take place in the rural parts of the county. I've received a couple of calls from constituents that have received the letter, and to Supervisor Chavez's comments, they were seniors. They were treated respectfully, and I fully believe given an adequate amount of time to address the issue. So your concerns I have witnessed firsthand, and will compliment the department on what they're doing. I believe the message is getting out there, but it's being done in a respectful and polite way for those who may not know that they're out of compliance and given the opportunity to comply. But I would concur with my colleague, perhaps quarterly will be inadequate, because now you will be at full staff.
Yes, sir.
And I would like to see the numbers that you presented to us last month, and what they have done in 3 months with your doubling of the staff. And again, maybe it's not enough. I don't ever see us growing to 100 people like the city, but I do believe you should have the adequate resources to do, and hopefully you can work with county council that we can move things forward, because we've had a lot of roadblocks in the past that seems now with your structure, it's now moving forward. So you do need time to get your feet on the ground and get going. But I can tell you, at least with the calls in my office, I don't know what Supervisor Mendes has had, you are out and about and doing your job.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. We definitely need to, because this is the beginning phase of what we're trying to do. So the fact that you come back quarterly, because I already see that, at least if it's complaint driven, comes from the board, a complaint isn't really triaged quick enough to just say, yeah, we can work on it, we'll work on it, instead of 10 days later, you get a call back, oh, that's a health department's issue. It's not our issue, you know. But you haven't done anything really hard yet. Someday you will do hard stuff, because there is situations out in the rural areas where you might have 30 structures that people are living in, and less than 15 are permitted. And this is a big problem in places, because it becomes a law enforcement problem.
Yeah.
Some of them, there's even not only gang, but there's foreign gangs involved in it. So these are things, and just a suggestion, if you ever get in that situation, have the sheriff there, but not have the sheriff, you call ICE and have ICE go with you. And I'm not joking, that's something that you're gonna get a lot more respect when that happens. Because someday you're gonna have some tough deals to do. And they're a universe away from, a problem in one of the county islands. So we'll be looking forward to seeing you again. Is there any action that needs to be taken, or is this
I'll make
Yes,
staff's I'll move for staff's recommendation after the public has an opportunity to speak.
Well, that's why I asked. Is there anyone in the public that wants to speak on this matter?
Bless you.
Good morning. My name is Sue Williams, and I live at 5437 East Montecito in the county area of Sunnyside, where we are always working to improve and preserve our neighborhoods and where code enforcement plays an outsized role in achieving that. Effective code enforcement can mean the difference between safe, attractive, and desirable neighborhoods or those in decline. Healthy neighborhoods grow the tax base and are better equipped to prevent bad behavior. I'm here today representing the Sunnyside Property Owners Association. Our board approved the letter before you, and with your indulgence, I'd like to read it into the record. Chairman Mendez and the members of the board. The Board of Directors of the Sunnyside Property Owners Association appreciate the direction from the Board of Supervisors to make functional improvements to the code enforcement program to improve responsiveness, customer service, greater follow-through, and tracking to ensure violations are remediated in a timely manner. Quality of life issues are extremely important to Sunnyside residents. It is why we work with residents in the unincorporated county islands of Mayfair, Tarpey, and Fig Garden to promote the Neighborhood Beautification Overlay District Ordinance. Unfortunately, nearly 25 years later, neighbors are still struggling to maintain stability and order in their neighborhoods. We want to commend your board for your recent progress made in code enforcement. The organization under the County Administrative Office has made a difference. The information on the county's website is clear, and the violation complaint form is user-friendly. However, the county is still facing a backlog of violations numbering over 1,866 cases dating back as far as 2017. The sheer volume of outstanding cases highlights two things. Code enforcement matters to county residents, and for far too long, the county has not provided adequate resources to remedy those violations. We realize the board faces some very difficult decisions in the next few months. Revenue is not what was expected, and the county faces a deficit of nearly $15 million in the upcoming 25-26 fiscal year. We appreciate the efforts to improve code enforcement and wholeheartedly support the County Administrative Office recommendations as presented to the board on March 11th. More code enforcement officers are needed. The database needs updating to allow the public to track progress, and financial deterrents such as levying unpaid administrative penalties on the property tax rolls rather than as liens should be evaluated and implemented. Organization under the CAO will result in a more effective code enforcement program. As you navigate the budget process, we urge strong consideration to appropriating the necessary funds to further improve code enforcement. So your vote today is important. The county already has ordinances in place to protect and enhance our neighborhoods. You've done a great job with that. We just need the tools and resources to finally make it happen. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. You can kind of look behind you there. We went from this guy sitting behind you was trying to do this by himself. Thank you.
He knows all about it.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll make a motion, but also include that staff bring back quarterly updates for the board, but I'll move for staff's recommendation as laid out in the report.
Got a motion, first and a second. All in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you.
We now move to item number 9 under the County Administrative Office. Approve and authorize the County Administrative Officer to submit a letter of interest to the Fresno Madera Continuum of Care to serve as the collaborative applicant on behalf of the Fresno Madera Continuum of Care for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Continuum of Care program.
Morning, Board. Dylan McCulley, Homelessness Program Manager with the County Administrative Office. The item before you today is a recommendation to authorize the county through the CAO's office to serve as the collaborative applicant for the Fresno Madera Continuum of Care, or FMCOC, for the HUD COC grant program. We'll provide an overview of the collaborative applicant functions, as well as highlight some of the benefits and potential risks of the county assuming this role. We'll be available to answer any questions at the conclusion of the presentation. So the collaborative applicant at a high level is the entity designated by the FMCOC to submit the HUD COC program application on its behalf. The HUD COC program allocation supports homeless services throughout Fresno and Madera counties and includes rental assistance, permanent supportive housing, and street outreach. The 2024 grant awarded to the FMCOC supports these programs and is approximately $14.2 million. In addition to overseeing this grant allocation process, the collaborative applicant provides administrative oversight of the FMCOC by monitoring for compliance with HUD regulations, providing technical support, and participating in planning activities. So currently, the Fresno Housing Authority is the collaborative applicant and has served in this role since the inception of the COC. However, Fresno Housing will no longer perform this role after the end of the current HUD COC program year ending November 30th, 2025. The County of Fresno is the only local entity with the experience providing homeless services to both rural and metro Fresno County, and also has the administrative capacity to perform the role as collaborative applicant. While the City of Fresno has the administrative capacity to perform the role of collaborative applicant, they do not have the same experience providing homeless services to the rural communities in our county. Additionally, I would mention that the City and County of Madera were part of the COC work group that recommended the County of Fresno assume the role of collaborative applicant. So some of the reasons that we would take on this role is that the county would be eligible for COC planning grant funds to help offset the administrative costs and would leverage existing COC support staff to facilitate a smooth transition to assuming that role. By serving as the collaborative applicant, the county will ensure the continued efficient operations of the FMCOC and will sustain community-wide efforts to end homelessness. I'll turn it over to Deputy CAO Amina Flores-Becker to go over further justification for why staff is making this recommendation and also discuss potential risks of assuming this role.
Thank you, Dylan. So there are risks associated with taking on the collaborative applicant role. The first and foremost is the administrative burden that taking on this role means. This is a full-time plus job position now. With the Fresno Housing Authority, there was an individual who did this role full-time, and in addition had consultants and other staff that supported them. So it is definitely an administrative burden. We believe that the County of Fresno currently has the staffing and capacity to take on this risk. We are just going to have to be strategic about how we organize it. There's also the risk of accountability and compliance. As you, I'm sure, are well aware, administering HUD dollars comes with a lot of regulations, a lot of requirements that we will be held accountable to. I did want to mention, though, that this is not a new risk to the County of Fresno. The County of Fresno currently administers other HUD dollars, as well as serves as the administrative entity for the Fresno Madera Continuum of Care for state dollars, which are equally burdensome as far as regulations and requirements. There's also financial risks. As we know, the state of the economy is in flux right now, especially at the federal level. So there are concerns with the sustainability of or future impacts to these dollars specifically, but that is something that we will monitor closely and manage as those impacts arise. We believe that there are bigger risks with not participating as the collaborative applicant. The first and foremost, and Dylan touched on this, was the fact that there's no viable alternatives. And what I mean by that is really, the way I see it, there are two public entities in Fresno County that have the capacity to do this and the experience to do this. The first of which is Fresno Housing Authority, and the second of which is Fresno County. Only Fresno Housing Authority and Fresno County have the administrative capacity and experience to oversee services in the entire regional area of the County of Fresno. There's also the reasonable alternative would be that the COC, should the county decide not to take on this role, then the COC could put this out to a community-based organization, and that creates a lot of risk in our perception as well, including a reduced leadership role for the county in the planning and strategizing of these funds. Community-based organizations don't have the administrative capacity to manage and oversee dollars at this magnitude with this level of regulations and requirements. So there's risk of mismanagement, there's application risks as a general application needs to be submitted regularly. There's the also concern of a lack of neutral oversight. A community-based organization would be competing for these same dollars that they would be tasked with administering. So that creates some concerns. And then finally, community-based organizations aren't held to the same transparency standards as a public entity like the County of Fresno. So there is a concern that there would be reduced transparency with a community-based organization taking on a role like this. So staff's recommendation today is to authorize our CAO to submit a letter of interest to the Fresno Madera Continuum of Care to serve as a collaborative applicant. It is also to direct staff to create the collaborative applicant function within the CAO's office and work with the Fresno Housing Authority to transfer the function to the county successfully by November 30th of this year. That is concludes our presentation. Dylan and I are available should you have any questions.
Any questions from the board?
I have just one, Chairman.
Go ahead.
The Housing Authority, was there a reason given, and maybe you stated it and I missed it, why the Housing Authority is wanting to kind of move away from being the administrator?
Yeah, so in communication with them, they recently went through a strategic planning process and really are re-identifying what their purpose and their role and their mission is, and that is really to administer the Housing Choice Voucher program as well as develop affordable housing. So they're really trying to focus their efforts on that. As I mentioned, this is a very administratively burdensome role, and with the retirement of the person that was administering these dollars, they really saw that as an opportunity to rethink what their role with the Fresno Madera Continuum of Care was.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, Chair. Thank you to our team. I met with them yesterday, and those were the questions I asked. What's the difference between us taking over this role and the pros and cons? And they walked me through what that is. But I do want to publicly say this will be one of the most important issues in my area. As we see where the homeless folks congregate. It's completely in the urban area. We do have some rural areas that have that problem. It's a bit more manageable. But I do want to, have that conversation. I'm open to us being in this role. I don't want us to be in the space where we're essentially taking all the risk and not any of the benefit. So we're very transparent about what I'm going to want to see in this conversation. Transparency needs to be part of this conversation. Like, there's no reason why this board and the public should not have the numbers for the point in time as we speak now.
Right.
That will help. That data helps us guide what the conversation is. For whatever reason, those numbers are not being released. I think that needs to not be the case. The other thing that I want to hone in on is I think the era of us just throwing money at a problem and not expecting any results or outcomes are over. And I want to publicly say that because I think we're in that space now where you look at what the governor has been doing, you look at what even President Trump has been doing. I think we want to make these investments. We want to take care of people that are out in the streets, but we also expect accountability and we also expect measurements. And so I want to ask you, what measurements are we going to put in us being in this role? Because we'll essentially control the purse strings. We'll essentially be that fiscal agent. So what are we going to do different that hasn't been done?
So as the collaborative applicant, we would be responsible for the point-in-time count. So that, I think, is a huge point to make. We are recommending, should the county take on this role, that we go back to doing annual point-in-time counts so that we have regular, updated data on unsheltered homelessness in our region. We also are in the process right now of discussing with the Housing Authority and the COC the release of the point-in-time numbers unofficially. In order for them to be released officially, they have to be certified through HUD. That what we're moving forward with right now and really making a case for is that we don't have that time to wait for HUD to certify those numbers. So we're working on that now, but that would be also more of our authority as the collaborative applicant should we take on this role.
And as far as the data tracking
Right.
system, so for example, we know that, for X amount of dollars that we spend on homeless services, we serve X amount of folks. But I want us to hone in on those numbers a little bit more deeper. Like how many of those folks that we now house and provide services for relapse or go back out into the streets or are in another category that we now have to provide services for? I think that piece has always been missing for me, and I would want us to be in that space where we can collect that data because it helps our board, it helps everybody, it helps the public create this narrative of X amount of dollars spent. Okay, great, but what are the actual results? Are these people going into long-term services? Or are they going into now medication so that they're not running around in our shopping centers or burning down houses in our alleyways or distraught somewhere holding a knife to somebody at a transportation hub, right? I think that to me is going to be a very valuable component of what we're trying to do here. So I just want to make that clear because you and I spoke about this yesterday, and I will be following up with some questions additionally later.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Got any questions? One thing I want to assure you, there is homeless people everywhere in this county. I don't care if it's an unincorporated community of 2,000 people, there's homeless people there. Yeah, they're everywhere. That's right. Even in Kalinga, where there's no water.
Yep.
They're in the riverbed there. Is there any public comment on this? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board. You make a motion? You got a second? All in favor, so I say an aye? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. Thank you.
We now move to item number 10 under agriculture. Conduct first hearing to amend the master schedule of fees, charges, recover costs ordinance by amending section 3300 agriculture subsections 3305 and 3306 and waive reading of the ordinance in its entirety and set the second hearing for May 6, 2025. Designate county council to prepare a fair and adequate summary of the proposed ordinance and direct the clerk of the board to post and publish the required summary in accordance with Government Code section 25124B1.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. Melissa Cragen, Agricultural Commissioner and Sealer of Weights and Measures. The item before you today proposes to amend the master schedule of fees for the Department of Agriculture. These changes are designed to ensure that our fees are aligned with the current costs of providing services and to enhance transparency to our customers. The primary change will adjust the rate for issuing phytosanitary certificates to certify commodities for export. The adjustment is necessary to cover the rising costs associated with salaries and benefits and transportation costs. The new rate will ensure that we can continue to offer high-quality service to our industry in a timely manner and maintain compliance with international standards. This item will also adjust the hourly rate for field inspections in the Certified Farmers Market Program to the current department hourly rate. Previously, this fee was capped at $60 under the Food and Agricultural Code, preventing the department from fully recovering costs to administer this program. Lastly, the recommended action proposes updates and clarifications to our master schedule of fees to correct prior inaccuracies and enhance transparency and understandability. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions?
Just a quick procedural question, Chair. the fee schedules that we're now updating are just to cover the cost for us administering these programs. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And when we engage in these fee increases, who do we work with in our ag industry folks? Do we poll folks? Do we just come up with a number and then communicate that to them?
We look at our internal department costs. So, these are the costs that it really pays for our staff and, our overhead and all of that sort of thing. So, if our services are available publicly, then, our customers are fully able to go use those other services if they're cheaper or whatnot. But there are some things that we have to do simply because we're the only entity that is qualified to do so.
And this is just me, that's the new guy that's trying to kind of read up on ag. So there is no point person that we work with on the ag industry, like an association or the Farm Bureau or any of those folks that we then communicate and say, we're going to raise the prices on this?
No.
No.
It's not the way it works.
It's
That's not the way it works.
mandated cost. And when is the last time these fees were increased? Would be a good.
I think it was 2017, 2015.
Yeah.
We're
So
a
it's been while.
little slow.
10 years?
Yeah, we need,
There were a couple reasons for that. I mean, our wages, as we all know, were a bit stagnant for a while, and so it wasn't as big of a change. But in the last 2 years, we've seen kind of a large increase, especially in our department, in wage growth, and so that really has created a very uneven cost recovery for us in specific programs.
Okay, thank you.
yeah. Any other questions?
No.
Is there any public comment on this item? Hearing none. I'll look, motion to approve, second. All in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Come back sooner next time with this.
It's all right, yeah.
We now move to item number 11, under Public Health, conduct first hearing to amend the Fresno County Master Schedule of Fees, Charges, and Recover Costs Ordinance by amending Section 2100, Public Health, subsections 2102, waive reading of the ordinance in its entirety and set second hearing for May 6, 2025, and conduct first hearing to amend the Fresno County Master Schedule of Fees, Charges, and Recover Costs Ordinance by amending Section 2100, Public Health, subsections 2107, waive reading of the ordinance in its entirety and set second hearing for May 6, 2025, and designates County Council to prepare a fair and adequate summary of the proposed ordinance and direct the clerk of the board to post and publish the required summary in accordance with Government Code Section 25124B1.
You can breathe now.
Thank you, Bernice. Good morning, Board. Joe Prado, Assistant Director of Public Health. I'm here to speak on the amendment to the master schedule fees. And there's going to be two amendments we are proposing to your board today. The first schedule is a revision to Section 2102 relating to laboratory fees. This proposed fee is related to your board's approval of the infectious materials ordinance, and this was as a result of the Reedley unlicensed privately owned laboratory. This fee will only apply to non-CLIA approved laboratories. The purpose of this fee is to really provide the funding structure. If we have a non-CLIA lab operating in Fresno County, we can provide an on-site inspection and an annual permit process. These fees are an estimated time to complete on-site inspections and annual permit process. The second schedule for your consideration is a revision to Section 2107, Emergency Medical Services. These fees are related to emergency medical technicians and paramedic certifications and recertifications. These fees are based on actual costs. This concludes our presentation, and staff is available to answer any questions your board may have.
Okay, any questions from the board?
No, I think the same question is, when was the last time these fees were increased?
For the Section 2107 fiscal year 2018-2019, we use fiscal year 2017-18 actual costs.
Okay.
Well, it's a little better. Any other questions? Is there any public comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll come back to the board.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, got a motion to approve. I'll second it. All in favor, so saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you.
We now move to item number 12, under the Administrative Office and Public Health. Receive presentation on the 2024 Animal Center Internal Operations and Climate Assessment Report prepared by Hatching and provide direction to staff.
Good morning, Board. Amina Flores-Becker, Deputy CAO. The item before you is a summary of the assessment report that was created by the consultant Hatching of our animal services operations. The consultant was retained after providing a similar service to the City of Fresno for their animal services operations, which at the time were provided by Fresno Humane, who is also our contracted vendor. Our office worked with the Department of Public Health to develop a scope of work and identify desired outcomes. Through this scope, the consultant was charged with assessing the business operations of the vendor and making recommendations to improve the contracted animal services provided at the county's animal shelter and in the field. I'll turn it over to Director David to provide the details of the assessment report and related recommendations made by Hatching. I will be available should you have any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Amina. David Lucchini, Director of Public Health. Thank you for keeping us at the end of the agenda. This is going to be the presentation you're going to be excited about. We have great pictures that Amina found of dogs, and so. All right, can you please go to the next slide? So we're going to go through key challenges, strategic recommendations, long-term funding and sustainability, action plan timeline, recommended immediate next steps, and then sustainability. At the end, we're going to have time for questions, but we'll need some direction at the end on what we want to do, because this is a critical program that we want to make sure is successful. So with that, let's go to key challenges. The Hatching data covers the January 21 through October 24th time period on some of these key challenges. Let's start with overcrowding and shelter capacity. As you've probably been very aware, the animal intake trends have gone up for the last several years. They continue to increase until we did the modified intake in March 24, which helped decrease a little bit that. And then we changed it again to bring in more animals because of concerns from the community. But there is still a lot more education to try to, if people are seeing stray animals, to try to avoid bringing them to the facility if they are full, unless they're sick and injured. The other thing we're looking at as another challenge is declining live release rates or save rates. These are performance indicators for animal shelters, reflecting the proportion of animals that leave the shelter alive through various positive outcomes such as adoption, return to owner, transfer to rescue partners. These are relative to the total number of animals with outcomes during that period. So some of the strain we're seeing on the capacity, when you're looking at the target in the industry, is a 90% save rate. Back in 2022, when the facility opened, it was at 81%. In 23, it was 65%. That was also a time where the FHAS was spread thin with serving us and the city of Fresno. Last year, it was 70%, so some improvement. And so far, year to date in 25, we're seeing 81%. The other metric that they look at is length of stay. The target is 7 to 14 days. Once again, when you're looking at overcrowding, backlog that strains staff, resources, and space, the growing gap between intake and outcome imbalance, we saw in 22, in the first year of the facility, average length of stay of 19.4 days. And 23 was the worst year with 26 days average length of stay. 24 was at 21.2, so there has been some improvement there. Now we go to staff and volunteer shortage. Staffing makes up about 60 to 80% of the budget. The vacancy rate has been running between 38 to 45%, so that's very high. Currently, they have 65 positions total, but typically only about 37 to 42 are filled. This leads to, once again, capacity issues when it's a lot of intake, decreased outtake. In 24, you saw a high of the animal building at 122% capacity, and really you want to be around 85% capacity. And also in July of 24, reached up to 122%. Looking at this year, still over 100%. January was at 112, February 120, March 108% capacity, and so far in April it's at 115. Constant turnover for entry-level animal care assistants who do a lot of these intakes. You spend a lot of time training because you're in constant turnover of positions. You have staff burnout, especially the emotional toll of euthanasia, and of course the struggle with competitive wages. In the third bullet, we have limited funding, which we'll cover in some of the future slides here. And then public awareness, the highlight there, which is a challenge, is the need to increase local adoptions, promotions, social media presence. We need to improve marketing efforts, including Spanish-speaking campaigns, expand shelter hours to increase accessibility for working families, and need a volunteer coordinator to increase community engagement education. Now we'll go to financial findings. Let's go next slide, please. This is just a quick review of the agreements we've had with the FHAS. The first one was the one that was a contract that started in January 1, 2020 and went through to 29. It was approximately 1.78 to 2.05 million per year with a 3% increase per year. The contract total was 18.9. Then we amended that, decreased the length of the contract to December 31st, 25, identifying the vendor was underfunded, and you approved increasing the funding to FHAS, which increased compensation through December of 24, 2.78 million. Then we came back to the board for Amendment 2 when we heard Hatchie say there was critical need to improve the funding, especially since FHS was financially struggling. So we increased compensation through June 25, 2.53 million. And the contract totaled 12.4 million. So technically the contract does end in December of 25, but the compensation will go down starting July 1st of 25. And so that's why we're here today to kind of walk this through and discuss options and direction from you. One of the things on the, thank you. FHAS faces chronic underfunding, understaffing. I've mentioned non-competitive wages and insufficient model to operate a shelter facility. The financial imbalance per hatching has been unsustainable to FHAS. The chronic turnover and vacancy rates, the wages again. And then they also did on page 19 of the report, you'll see a comparison to other county or city animal agencies, which shows County of Fresno at a lower budget than a lot of the City of Fresno, Stanislaus Animal Services, and City of San Bernardino. So Hatching's recommendation is once again for an emergency budget increase through June 25, which we did, you approved earlier, increasing to 260. And that really helped with not only the salary and benefits, service supplies, the general veterinarian expenses, also fuel and maintenance that were very critical. All right, slide number 7. These are the financial recommendations. We already discussed the first one. And the second one is really critical. The new contract with FHS effective July 1st, where the recommendation from Hatching is increasing it, especially to meet the needs in phase 1 through 3 of $5.1 million a year. So that's an increase of another $3 million to get to that 5.1. They also recommend enhanced financial oversight, implementing stricter financial controls to include regular audits, a clear approval process for expenses, and improved tracking of overtime and medical expenses. Also investment in infrastructure with the addition of climate-controlled vehicles for transporting animals and further staffing in key areas, including field services and dispatch. So they talk about the phased approach, and I think phase 1 and 2 are really the most critical that we need to get to. Stabilization, which is a focus on addressing immediate needs like staffing gaps, increasing budget oversight and stabilizing operations through hiring key positions such as a business manager and a medical coordinator. Sustainability, the aim to create more consistent service delivery by improving internal processes, building community programs, and increasing on-site medical capabilities. And then eventually, hopefully the 3, which is that transformation on long-term growth by expanding medical services, community outreach, and increasing adoption and foster rates. All right, stabilization. Once again, get that compensation up in phase 1 to the $5.1 million a year. Looking at salaries for additional staff, investment in operational improvements, the climate-controlled vehicles, and costs associated with upgrading medical services and providing on-site care. Some of the things they talk about, we're talking about staffing increases. They're talking about increasing the number of animal care assistant staff up to 15 to 16, adding 6 additional animal control officers. From your constituents, we get a lot of questions about stray animals, and there's delays getting out there. So those are some of the issues with additional animal control officers getting out there. I know the sheriff's department has been a little frustrated in the last couple of years with how slow we've been able to get out there. So that would help. Same with 3 additional dispatchers, so they can handle the calls and get the field officers out there. The vehicle fleet, once again, ensure humane conditions They cover a lot of square miles, and so during the heat events, it's important that we have a fleet that has humane conditions for the dogs in the back of the truck or the van. Next slide, please. On this one, the main goal in sustainability is to build a robust safety net for both people and pets, reduce dependency on reactive measures, and continue focusing on operational efficiencies. Key goals of on-site medical services, the community programs, which includes a lot more education, responsible pet ownership, and spay and neuter initiatives. Once again, adoption and foster growth. And then with the budget forecast, annual increase in operational and staffing costs for shelter staff if vet services are phased into the shelter. And then operational efficiency of improved processes for intake and resource management to reduce the length of stay. And remember, the length of stay goal is 7 to 14 days, and increase the live outcomes. Phase 3, transformation. Expansion of shelter resources, build system capacity to accommodate increasing animal intakes and provide better mechanism to transition animals out. Expanded life-saving programs to increase the live release rate. That includes creating a foster advocacy program for adoptions, the need of a multilingual adoption strategies, provide off-site adoption events, provide free dog tags and microchipping to assist with reunifying pets with their families, and enhance the volunteer program. Also with long-term budget projections, looking at projected annual funding, additional funding to support shelter services, staff hiring, and program expansion with ongoing investment in community outreach, medical care, and staffing to ensure sustainable operations and long-term impact. So in conclusion, immediate needs, address the funding gaps and fill critical staffing shortages to stabilize operations and vehicles that are climate controlled during major heat events. Sustainable growth, invest in long-term capacity building initiatives, including medical services, community programs, and field services. And empowered transformation, positioning FHAS as a regional leader in humane animal care. Some of the things also we're looking at, this is mentioned on page 70 of the report, is recommending a dedicated on-site county facilities manager. And I do say there was some improvement when we added, before in the old days, we had a supervising registered environmental health specialist and environmental health specialist helping out with those services. And that was pulling from a lot of their other duties. So now we have a full-time staff analyst working out there who's really done a great job, always in the building, gets to know FHAS staff really well, gets to hear the concerns from your constituents and your concerns from your office. And we've already seen that improve by having a full-time person over there working with FHAS. Building a financial sustainability and community engagement team, building the medical capacity. Eventually, it'd be nice to have the capability to build a surgery suite so you can do more spay and neutering on site instead of transporting animals out. The need for a humane investigator for cruelty and neglect cases. And then some things we'll be monitoring the next couple of years, consideration shifting, does the field make sense? Services make sense more with the county's employees or with FHAS? But I think at first, to really do a good assessment, we need to build them up to a capacity where they can be more effective before we can make that assessment if it would be better to have county staff in the field. All right, let's see. I think those are our next steps. So we're here, we want to develop a 5-year budget proposal. The option, of course, the recommendation from hatching is to increase to $5.1 million a year, especially years 1 to 3, to try to get through those phases we mentioned. And so the target date obviously is July 1st before the compensation to FHS gets reduced on July 1st, 25. So we need to get to your board. So with that, I have staff with me if you have for questions. Eric Armstrong's our new Environmental Health Director, Division Manager. And Kristen Lynch is our Senior Staff Analyst who 25% of your time is working on animal services with SIM. So questions, comments, and then
Nathan.
So first, I want to thank the Department of Public Health and also Fresno Humane. Just about 6 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to spend some time with Doug, who was a dog, pit bull, there at the shelter, who was a difficult dog to place. And I think he was actually at one point slated to be put down. And so Doug and I had a special bond, and I would have kept him myself, but just my life and how much I travel wouldn't allow that. But Doug was adopted. But through that process, There were, I think, about 110 dogs at the time when I was there at the shelter, and more dogs were being brought in daily. There were a number of puppies, some puppies that had been abandoned, mothers that had their puppies taken from them. There was one instance where you had puppies that had been adopted by a mother who had lost her puppies, and a nursing mother. And so it's heartbreaking to see what takes place. And I was only there as a visitor and only spent a few hours, and of course was taking Doug with me to visit everyone here at the Hall of Records. But day in and day out, there are employees there at Fresno Humane that witness many dogs having to be put down, many healthy dogs that have to be put down. So I appreciate just what Fresno Humane does, what the Department of Public Health does, and I'm going to be supportive of this request today. But I wanted to just say thank you, because you don't hear that enough with the work that you do. And when it comes to just kind of promoting what's happening here at the county, I agree. We need to be doing more with our media partners, more on social media. And a great example is about 2.5 weeks ago, there was a box of puppies that was dropped off just in the rural part of Fresno County, just outside of Fresno, and I was sent a message about it. And I posted about it. That one post that I did got over 120,000 views, and people just outraged. But many of the campaigns that we have here at the county, just bringing awareness to people about how important spaying and neutering their animals is, and just the thousands of dogs that are being dumped in the county, it's a huge problem, and we need to be doing more. And I think this is a step in the right direction. So thank you for all that you do.
Go ahead.
Yeah, first, I want to echo what Supervisor Magzik says. I also took a tour out there, I don't know, weeks ago, and you do amazing work. All of you working with these animals and the rescue operations. I mean, I always say they're angels from God doing this work. It's tough work. It's sad work at times. So we thank you. I thank you. I want to address a couple of things from this report. Initially, as I was reading it at the beginning, what are they? They're called hatching. They said the issues surrounding animal welfare are not simply a result of, quote, irresponsible pet owners or the need for mandatory spay-neuter laws. Rather, they're a reflection of deeper systemic issues such as economic stability, housing insecurity. And then they go and talk about, to deal with it, we got to deal with cultural responsiveness, equitable and intentional resource distribution. I didn't know if they were going to start saying the dogs need pronouns or not. I mean, it's kind of silly. It is about irresponsible pet owners. It is about mandatory, people spaying and neutering their pets. And we need to continue to encourage that, and of course, continue to help with rescue operations and things of that sort. I do want to go to the euthanasia rates that you allude to on page 13. A couple of questions, though. How many? What's the number of kennels that we have?
Capacity is 180 dogs.
108?
180.
180.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah, and I was doing a comparative analysis with the city of Fresno. The city of Fresno has 177. They're paying $8.5 million. So we're going to 5, and we have pretty much the same number of kennels. Do we have a veterinarian on staff?
We do not have, we do not have a veterinarian on staff.
Okay. Why wouldn't we have a veterinarian on staff?
I think that's part of the recommendation. We need to build up that medical capacity.
Do they recommend that? Because they recommend having a veterinarian on staff.
Full-time, that'll be the part we'd have to figure out, but we need some access to a veterinarian. I think it comes into some of the things I think would be helpful is all the government agencies that deal with animal services. It'd be nice to get together and talk about it. Are there some areas we could share resources? Because everybody's struggling with overcrowded shelters.
Yes.
And veterinarians are there's not a lot of them out there. There's a shortage
there is
there, too.
not a lot. There are not a lot. The city of Fresno finally got one. I know they were advertising a long time to get one. I think we should have a veterinarian on staff for Fresno County Humane Shelter. I mean, there's just no way we shouldn't have one. And we're going to have to pay a lot of money. Go ahead, you were going to say.
No, I'm just going to say at the same time, we need, just to remind me, that surgical suite, because they don't have really the clinic. I don't know, I think we toured back there. Remember
Yeah,
the clinic
yeah.
area? We showed that one room.
Yeah.
That needs to be a surgical suite so the vet can do more services on site.
If I
So-
can address that, Supervisor
Go ahead,
Bell,
go ahead,
that,
please.
that is that's under Phase 2. So Phase 2 recommends on-site medical services, establishing a full-service veterinary clinic to reduce that reliance on off-site care and the associated costs that go with that. So what we're recommending here today, and staff, correct me if I'm wrong, is really Phase 1, getting this is stabilizing the program. But the next step is getting to that. So that is a recommendation, but if I'm correct, that's Phase 2. is
Critical
getting to that.
frontline positions need to be get first there.
So phase 2, what are they recommending in terms of timeline to do that? What's the timeline?
It's over 3 years. Phase 1, they were hoping Phase 1 and 2, at least in the first 2 years, would be nice, and then get to Phase 3 by year 3. So,
Yeah, again, I would encourage that we pursue a veterinarian now. We have 180 kennels. We're providing operations throughout Fresno County. I think we ought to have an expert doctor, who oversees what's taking place. And we should afford it, pay for it. We're spending $3 million, which I think is necessary. So I would encourage you to move forward on getting that. I don't think we should wait 2 or 3 years to get a veterinarian with all the animals that we're dealing with. And I looked at comparative analysis with the euthanasia rates. They are similar to the city. Sadly, they're still too high, especially when you're talking about having to euthanize healthy dogs. That's just heartbreaking. And so we've got to do better with that, but the situation is what the situation is. So the last thing is about the swamp cooler, which I've mentioned before. I came out there, and they have a swamp cooler instead of HVAC, and I think that's $800,000. We're going to be bringing that forward. Is that right, Mr. Nerl?
Yes, I've already talked to our team about moving forward with that. We're looking at the revenue, whether that's our ARPA funding, which has a component for that funding source, or HVAC funding, but we are proceeding with that.
Good, because we need to do that if we're going to provide the care for these animals. And the last thing is, do you run into, or are you aware of much illegal dog breeding that's taking place? Because in the city of Fresno, it is a big issue. We brought forward an ordinance, which I intend to address here in the county. What are you running into with
From
that?
our team, we haven't got a lot of reports on illegal breeding in the county islands, but we know that's been an issue at the city, and I know Amina's been talking to the city, kind of seeing how that ordinance been working, and I don't know if you want to comment on what you found from the city.
Yeah, I spoke with Alma last week, and what she reported was that they actually implemented the ordinance about a month ago. They needed time to come through with the master schedule of fees, but she did report some lessons learned already. They plan to bring back their ordinance soon to address some of those areas. But I do think that if your board wanted to pursue the path of an ordinance, there's definitely some lessons learned there that we can benefit from.
Excellent. I will call Alma. I spoke to her yesterday about these issues, and we initiated that, me and several of the colleagues, that ordinance. So if there are things that we need to do to change it or bring it to the county, we absolutely should do that. Again, I want to thank you for what you do. This is tough work. As I said, it's heartwarming to see dogs like Doug. I was thinking Bruce. I don't know. Doug.
That's a good dog name, too.
And appreciate, Nathan, what you did for that dog. And so many people are out there helping with all these animals, but it comes down to encouraging people to be responsible with their pets, not just dumping them on some road, which is heartless, and spaying and neutering their pets. And we provide discounts for people. The city does as well. In fact, the city. And do we provide zero when they're willing to find them and keep them? Because I know the city is doing that, where if they find them and are willing to keep them, they will spay and neuter them
They
at
try
no
to come up
cost.
with ways to entice, they not only do try to offer lower spay and neuter, they'll offer some food if they adopt the animal and other things to help them with that cost.
Okay, chipping, they also provide chipping for, putting chips in the
Oh,
dogs.
I thought you said shipping.
No, not shipping.
Chipping, yes.
Chipping. Yeah, putting a chip in them. Yeah.
Microchip.
Is there anything that the county and the city with the shelters could be working together? Anything more that they could be doing
Most
together?
excited, like not only Amina, Sim works very closely with Alma, and the discussion is really great because I think we learn from each other.
Excellent.
And I think, like I said, I think it's good. We hear from, was it Huron sometimes? I mean, we have other jurisdictions are
sure.
struggling with animal service. So maybe it's a time to kind of get together and talk about how we can work together on some of these things to help each other out.
Well,
Because it's not an easy job.
It's not easy. And Clovis has Miss
Winkles.
Miss Winkles.
Come on.
Miss Winkles.
Miss Winkles, pet it
Miss
up.
Winkles.
Winkles.
Yeah. So again, thank you very much.
Ryan, you got any?
This is another one of those tough issues. And as we come into the budget season, I just think there's a lot of issues of the board, and unfortunately, they all take money. We had a presentation today on code enforcement, which took us 2 years to get to. In the rural part of the county, roadside dumping is a priority, and that's taken millions. We had $500,000 increase just to keep up. Roads in general are a priority, which we just did with Measure C. Of course, we always have law enforcement. We want our sheriffs fully funded because when you call, you want them to come. And then once they come, you want to keep our jails fully staffed so that they have a place to go. And then I think animal control is one of those issues that will be and is a priority of the board. We have to go back. We operated out of the morgue, which was supposed to be temporary, which was a 10-year temporary. And then we built a new facility, which was great. But the day we opened, it was at capacity by the end of the week. And there's a lot of issues there that we need to address. I believe our vendor, you said we're looking for a new vendor. I believe we have the best vendor possible. I believe they do it for the love of the animals. They're not doing it to get rich. So, and even at that, they're dramatically underpaid. So I too support today's proposal that we need to increase the pay. As Supervisor Bredfield said, we're similar to the city, and yet we're dramatically less than what the city's spending. I just like to think we're more efficient, but it still shows a need. We do need an air conditioner out there. I can tell you, being in production agriculture, we deal with the veterinarian weekly. We have 24-hour emergency call, and our vets have tried to recruit other veterinarians, and it is very, very hard to do. When you do get a veterinarian, they like to do multiple things, surgeries as well as everything. If you hire a vet and just want to do spay and neutering, that's going to be very boring really quickly, and a new college graduate did not go to school and spend those hundreds of thousands of dollars to spay and neuter all day. That's just not going to happen, which is why you don't have it and it's so hard to recruit. So in addition, you are going to pay not thousands, but you will pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to have a licensed veterinarian on the farm, on the facility. So I think what you can do in the meantime is there are many veterinarian clinics. They're usually at capacity, but what we could do as goodwill is we could start contracting with those clinics to do spay and neutering to spread it out, and that way you are viewed as a partner of the current vets and not a adversary or in competition, because I definitely think as a county, we don't want to do that and hurt our local businesses. And I believe there is enough work to go around. I do support the idea, wanted to see what the city did. I think we need a breeder ordinance for the county, just like our copper wire, like our catalytic converter that we'll be bringing forward. We don't want the city to have an ordinance that pushes it all to the county. So now that the city has gone and cut through, I would be very interested in having a breeding ordinance, because we have enough dogs, we surely don't need to be making more. And there need to be guide rails on that. I'm not going to hurt somebody's business, but you shouldn't have unlimited ability just to keep mass producing more dogs. I can tell you again, from someone in the rural part, it's very disheartening when a constituent calls. They've taken the time to capture the animal and bring it in. only to be told your animal's healthy, we can't take it, go send it back. And you've addressed that early on. Again, as a director and the staff, I think you've done a fantastic job, but you have to have the resources to do it. So again, it's not your fault, it's our fault. We have to give you the resources to do that. We're in tough financial times. I've just outlined the priorities of the board. I believe this is another priority, but we don't have enough money to do everything. So again, we'll be making some tough decisions in September, not really June, in September. But I believe this needs to be one of them, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but we cannot have our people come in and bring an animal and tell them to go back home. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable. And again, we're running at 100 to 120 capacity. We're going to have to run to 125.
The only thing I want to add, though, is the timing. I do worry that if we get to July 1st and don't adjust the agreement, then it goes back to the old dollar figures, which will really shortchange FHAS.
Well, that could be done in
We'll
30
try.
days at our next board meeting. I think you have the consent of this board. We'll see. That should be brought back. And there in no way, shape, or form should we let that contract lapse or not treat them the right way. As everyone on this board has mentioned, they're doing the tough work and they deserve to be paid for what they do, and they're under the market as it is. So I don't think there's any issue with that, is there,
Oh,
Chairman?
heck no.
Yeah. So that needs to be brought back within 30 days, get them a new contract. And again, it will be our job to find the money. And I just think Supervisor Butterfield's new building is going to get farther away because we keep tapping into that fund to pay everything else.
Or smaller.
Yeah. But we're going to tap into that account because that's where we have millions set aside. And it's the place we're going to get it to have the least amount of disruption to the entire county and fill immediate needs, because the items I mentioned, I don't think we want to cut any of those. We don't want to cut our roads. We're not going to lower the roadside dumping. We're not going to let people out of the jail. And we're not going to cut back code enforcement. We just, in tight budget times, we just added 5 new positions to a department. And we're telling everybody else, hold or cut, and yet we just added 5 because, again, it's a priority of the board. And again, us 5 up here, we get to decide the priorities. And I believe you will be a priority, and we're going to make you whole, whatever it takes. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yeah, okay. You know, you just barely covered this. I'm totally in agreement with what he said. But you just barely covered something that's catastrophic with animals in this county. And that's out in the country and in the rural communities. And that is dogs with no owners running around. And it's probably the worst I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about, you can be, unless you're way out in the west side or something, but if you're close to, within 5 miles of a unincorporated community, and you're in the rural area, there is a lot of loose dogs running around. And I'm not talking about a couple, sometimes packs of 5, 6, 7. And then even in the rural communities, people are having problems with dogs running around with no owners, or the owners just don't care. They'll just let their dogs run around and they're chasing people. And like you said, the sheriff isn't really equipped to deal with them. But yet we're not really equipped to go out and capture them, because you're talking about capturing them. You're not going to, they're not going to come to you, pet them, and you take them into Fresno. That ain't happening. But that's a chronic problem. Worst I've ever seen it.
And it's in all of our rural cities. The Kerman just built a brand-new shelter a few years ago. It's at capacity. I can tell you, every time I go into the city of Mendota, there are stray dogs everywhere. They try to the best of their ability to do it. They've called my office. We need help from the county. And we can't even take care of the rural residents, let alone those in the incorporated cities of like Mendota, who, again, their finances are just like ours. They can only do so much. But if you really want to see a problem, take a drive in one of those towns. And as Supervisor Mendez said, there are dogs everywhere. And they need help, but we can't help ourselves, let alone help them. So we have a problem that we will have to address in the budget, but I believe you're going to be given the resources. And again, it will be at the detriment of something else. For me, the easiest and simplest, which again, the board will decide, is we're going to take it from our dedicated building because we need the money now, and we're going to get by with this facility because these priorities cannot be put off, or otherwise we will have issues that you've addressed coming forward. We've not addressed this and all that. Well, the reckoning is coming, and it will be in less than 30 days, or 90 days. Supervisor, yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to say, you mentioned about taking money from the fund. I think that's absolutely a good idea because it is about priorities. That's what we do. And I want to commend you three for the fiscal responsibility of setting aside money for a building. And $51 million is a lot of money. And I'm certainly open to utilizing that money because, as I said earlier, we can also bond to build the building. So, but that may not be something everybody's keen on. But anyway, I appreciate that because I think that is something that I've also thought that money can be used for more pressing needs, and certainly our animals are certainly more pressing needs. So I appreciate that, and I also commend you for the fiscal responsibility that you had in setting aside those dollars.
If you have the experience with the breeding ordinance in the city, I would be willing to partner with that
Let's do
because
it.
it needs to be done in the county.
We'll
We
do it.
cannot have them all come to the county.
We will work together on that, and I will speak with Alma, find out the things that she's found out since the ordinance went into effect, or even before, and we'll make those corrections for the county. I appreciate that very much, Brian.
Okay, is there?
Chair, just real quick, you brought up a good point, and I want to ask what our process is, because yesterday we spoke about, and thank you to our staff for walking me through the difference between dogs we catch in the rural areas, which are bigger dogs, as opposed to the city catching the smaller dogs in the urban part of the county. For the issue I think we're going to have, and I'm already seeing it, we have county islands where on one side of the street, if somebody calls, our folks respond. There are times when folks will shoo animals into our side, because I know the city of Fresno right now has a moratorium where they will not respond to a healthy dog or stray dog, hey, leave it in place. Do we respond to calls for like what Chairman Mendez mentioned, loose dogs or pack of dogs that could potentially hurt a kid or, an elder person? So what's our protocol for that? Do we respond to those calls?
You guys, because there's three priorities. So if there's anything that's a risk to the public, it's a priority 1. So they do respond to priority 1s. Then there's a moderate risk, that's a priority 2, and then there's low risk, which is priority 3. They're not aggressive, they look healthy. Those would be a lower priority. They do try to respond to all of them. That's the problem, though. You don't have enough animal control officers to cover that many square miles efficiently.
No, and that's good for me to know, because as we're going out talking to residents, I want to be able to communicate, hey, this is the expectation. Don't think that somebody's going to respond right away. So you have a dog on the side of the city, and then they just shoot it in the county thinking that we're just going to respond and take it in, when really, in reality, it's across the street. The last thing I'll say is for the MOU conversation that we're having with the city, what's the value that you all see with us maybe sharing the cost, kind of like what Supervisor Pacheco described, maybe the cost of the veterinarian that the city of Fresno has, where we would be able to have access to those services for us? Maybe we split the cost. Has that been broached?
I think that's where we need to get to have more serious discussions on, can there be areas where we could share resources? Because I think it's tough. Everybody needs resources. I think it's getting more expensive, and so there's maybe a better way to be more efficient with these resources.
We have our Fresno Humane folks that I think do great work. Do we partner with other rescues?
They do a great, is FHS here? No. I don't know why I thought they were in the back. They do a great job with rescue groups. Someone mentioned it up here. That's their passion. I mean, much better than the old days if we were doing it. They had that relationship with rescue groups, even getting rescue groups from out of the state. Minnesota, they love Chihuahuas. So this group flies in, gets Chihuahuas in Minnesota. I can't explain it. That's what I mean. That's the relationship and the passion that makes them effective in that rescue group. And once again, as the intakes increase, it just gets harder and harder to find enough rescues and foster groups. I mean,
People are great, but
Well, I think you should bring all those 100-plus dogs to Supervisor Magzig's office because he obviously has the ability to help rescue and adopt some of those folks. Maybe he has a Pet of the Week video coming out. But thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, this is,
Action.
it is an action item. Is there anyone in the public that wants to speak on this item? No. All righty, I'll bring it back to the board.
I'll move for staff's recommendations as laid out in the report.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, is that the direction you're needing?
yeah.
Yeah, we would come back, Chairman and
Because it
Board.
says receive, but provide direction.
Yeah,
so-
we would then come back, because it's such a large increase, we would come back before the end of the year with a new contract with Fresno Humane.
Right,
to
this is
address
a
these
motion
needs.
to keep
Yeah.
working on
Yeah,
it.
and I would just emphasize, this is phase one. You know, the goal is to get to phase two and phase three. And what I hear from your board is less, we've been reactive, we want to be proactive, and that's what we're going to focus on.
So I got a motion on the floor. Got a second. All in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, thank you very much.
We now move to item number 13, Board of Supervisors Committee Reports and Comments.
Okay, Luis, you got anything? Okay.
I've got a couple of comments. So this is Clovis Rodeo Week, beginning on Wednesday with PBR, professional bull riding, and culminating on Sunday. Also today, there is a blood drive that the Blood Center is doing at the rodeo grounds. I was able to give a pint yesterday. That's why I'm a little bit woozy this morning. But I want to encourage those that are listening, if you do have time today, to give that pint, because you can save up to 3 lives. Saturday, the Clovis Rodeo Parade will be taking place. That's going to start at 9:30 in the morning downtown Clovis. So come out and support that community event. Also, something that I just want to share publicly, which is challenging my district a little bit, and it might be challenging some of yours as well. Our CSAs, there are some which are underfunded and having to go through a 218 process. And I'm going to be having a community meeting next week. And one of my districts is being asked to, or they're being asked to vote in a 300% increase for sewer and water rates, which is very difficult for people on fixed incomes. And so I have a lot of people on fixed incomes in a lot of the rural parts of my district. So just something I want to state on the record. Public Works has been working on this a little bit. I know our CAO's office has been working on it, but this is coming at a very difficult time. So just wanted to put that out there.
I think you see why me and Brian, as soon as we got here, now 11 years ago, it was like no more CSAs for that reason.
I
That
fully support
If a builder's going to do something, they need to form a community service district, not a CSA that they expect us to manage. Me and Nathan will be going to the CSAC Ledge Conference starting tomorrow, which we have to leave after this meeting, but I will be moderating a discussion on the Groundwater Stabilization Act, which, you know, will be very interesting, and I shall be very entertaining moderating it.
Luis is going too.
You're going to go too?
Just to watch.
So anyway, that's, you know, what we'll be doing, and there's a CSAC board meeting while we're there, and a Urban County Caucus meeting while we're there that I'll attend, and
And a GFNA meeting.
Yeah.
Government Finance, which I'm vice chair.
right.
Well, Gary and I will be here to keep the ship going while you guys are all out and about, so, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah. You might have some new changes when you all get back, but we'll handle it, don't worry. We got it covered for you, yeah.
A new Hall of Records with the dogs on the bottom.
Yeah,
Got
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
All righty.
We now move to item number 14, Board Appointments.
Is there any board appointments?
Mr. Chairman, I have one. I would like to have Pat Hunter to the Historical Landmarks and Records Advisory Commission, replacing Paula Lloyd for a term ending January 2029.
Okay, Gary, you got it?
Yes. Just to Vince Ellis with the Emergency Medical Care Committee, and Susan Locks at large with the Historical Landmarks and Records Advisory Commission.
I have one, Mr. Chair. I have Ms. Patricia Scoville to the Foster Care Oversight Committee.
Okay, Nathan?
Yeah, I've got three. To the Emergency Medical Care Committee, I want to reappoint Brad Richter to the District 5 seat, which expired in January. And to the Recreation and Wildlife Committee, I want to reappoint Stephen Butts to the District 5 seat, which expired in January. And the Audit Committee, reappoint Cull Brar to the at-large seat, which expired in December of 2024.
All righty, I have none, so somebody want to,
Public.
yeah, is there any public that wants to speak on those appointments? Apparently not.
I'll move for appointing those people.
Okay, you got a second? All in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We'll move to public presentation.
Public presentations, this portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the board on any matter not on this agenda.
Okay, I take it there's none.
Doesn't
Was
look
there any public comment on closed session items? I see none also. With that, Mr. County
Mr.
Counsel?
Chairman, we do not expect any announcements out of closed session, so if the board chooses, it may adjourn following closed session.
All righty, do I have a motion to adjourn then? Okay, you got a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, which is my favorite motion, so